Plymouth Argyle have just done the unthinkable. Bottom of the Championship have just beaten the Premier League and Champions League leaders 1-0, perfectly showcasing the magic of the FA Cup. Now, plenty of people will react to that and think Liverpool played kids. There was no Mo Salah, no Virgil van Dijk. Numerous key players rested ahead of Liverpool's trip to the southwest. But that won't devalue completely the level of achievements Plymouth Argyle wrote in the club's history on Sunday. The team Liverpool put out could and arguably should have beaten a team with just 2 league wins in 21 games. It's as simple as that. So today I want to zoom in on how Muslić's team shocked Arne's slot by giving you some context of Argyle's state going into the game, how they set up, some in-game storytelling with analysis, and how far the Green Army can go under the new head coach. Let's go. So as we all know, Wayne Rooney took charge at the start of the season and lasted until the end of December after a 2-0 defeat to a team they finished above and came up with the previous season. So in came Miron Muslić after the shock win away at Brentford. He actually went fairly viral after a very inspiring and charismatic speech towards his new group of players when he first joined. But since then, it's been a little rocky, with the 5-0 versus Burnley particularly standing out, but now he's unbeaten in 3. A last gasp 2-2 draw away at Sunderland, and then a valuable 2-1 home win versus playoff hunting West Bromwich Albion. But it's no coincidence that the 2 games that they've won under him have included multiple new signings, mostly defenders. Under Rooney, they were conceding a lot of goals. 4 on the opening day at Sheffield Wednesday, 5 away at Cardiff City, 6 away at Norwich City, 4 away at Bristol City and 4 away at Coventry. Their poor defence makes it abundantly clear they needed to recruit and back the new manager with reinforcements in this area, else relegation would be staring them in the face. So they made 5 signings this January window, 2 loans, but 3 of them were in defence, and what an impact those 3 defenders have made. So this is how Plymouth sets up. A 3-4-2-1 with Kitic in the middle of the 3 and Bundu leading the line. And this is the Liverpool side that came up against them. A relatively strong team that was more than capable of coming away with the win. Muslić's side were going to be without the ball a lot today, so they set up in a difficult, compact 5-2-3 when pressing, but when deep in their own half, it became a 5-4-1, with the 2 attackers behind Bundu tucking in with the midfielders. When Liverpool moved wide, 3 players would surround the Liverpool winger to crowd the space and force them backwards. This was often done with the wing-back, wide centre-back and attacking midfielder depending on what side the ball was circulating. With the ball, of course, they had more limited numbers going forward, but if the ball came down the left flank, then the left wing-back would push right up with his energy and look to combine with Callum Wright. They played long, direct balls when Liverpool pressed them and aimed to win the aerial battles and second balls to really formulate moves going forward. Now let's take a good look at the game. Now to get something in this game, Argyle needed a few things: organisation, focus, hard work, discipline and luck. When you come up against an opposition of this stature that is vastly superior to you in many aspects, you need a bit of fortune on the day. You can't do without it when you're bottom of the Championship against top of the Premier League. But I think you'll be surprised at how much they limited the Reds. The early minutes consisted of Liverpool sharing a large amount of possession, knocking it round and getting a feel for the tempo of the game, as Plymouth were visibly in a very solid structure that was going to be interesting to break down. The wing-backs pounced aggressively onto the wide players, and whenever the ball came to Jota or Elliott high up, then a centre-back would pounce aggressively too. They didn't mind Conor or Gomez having the ball, what mattered was how proactive they were when they distributed the ball. However, the early minutes for me belonged to Argyle. They set the tone very well. They found space through the channels on quick breakaways with threaded balls and behinds, but mainly with the ball looked directly into their forward line. Whether that was Wright, Hardie or Bundu. A fair amount of the time they didn't win the initial header, but the second ball is what mattered. If Wright won the second ball, he was supported by the sheer energy and drive via their new Polish left wing back. The same would occur on the other flank as they looked to hit Liverpool fast. But a lot of Plymouth's success also came down to how poor Liverpool were. I'm going to talk about how good Plymouth were But Liverpool themselves were pretty bad too. Aerially, they're beheading the ball straight to them or in a poor direction. Plymouth also looked to pounce 2 to 3 numbers on their midfield players when they looked to access their central threats. Some of the passes were just very complacent and lacking any real awareness by the distributor. So Liverpool were limited on the ball, centrally due to the strict, compact shape, but also out wide when Diaz got the ball. 3 players would manoeuvre over and force him backwards. And the same would happen to Chiesa. The big concern for Argyle would be that when they do go forward, they could very well be caught out on the break, but their transition from attack to defence was superb. I mean, not quite Nottingham Forest level, but it was very good and it was very fast. The second Diaz took too long in the ball, which he did a lot. He suddenly had no space and anything going for him. When Argyle did press the centre-backs, they chose when and when not to be aggressive. But the 3 continued to block the passing options towards the midfield, whilst the midfield pivots from Plymouth would stay very proactive on Liverpool's threats, with Randall pushing a little higher up to be more aggressive when need be. But ultimately that's where they want the ball, with Liverpool's centre-backs, where they can't hurt them. Slot would later go on to make his usual and effective tactical tweaks mid-game by inverting the right back into midfield, with the idea to create an overload, which didn't work. He needed more width with the right back so he could stretch Argyle's back line so he could access their midfield. As the game progressed, Liverpool was still finding very limited opportunities. Plymouth were physically fantastic and really posing as a problem for Liverpool in transition, but just needed to get the pass right and capitalise on the complacency of the league leaders. We know Liverpool rotated, but the senior players were really poor, physically so naive, and the decision making and quality was nowhere to be seen. Overhit passes, bad touches, misplaced balls and more. It's these games, it's quality that can edge you a win when you're struggling against this amount of men behind the ball. A player that can put a quality delivery in, find a pass from nowhere, beat a few players, maybe utilise set pieces or hit it from range. None of that was on show. They started to become more direct in transition in hope that Diaz and Chiesa would have more time to generate something, but the backline was fast, limiting them to just 3 shots in that first half, with none of them being inside the box. Harvey Elliott at times would look to drop deep to help them get forward, but the problem with that comes when he wasn't taking anyone on. If you're going to drop deep, out of position, then you'll come to do something that those deeper players and centre-backs can't. So look to beat a man, bring some intensity to the play, maybe look for a direct pass or a 1-2, as you're a creative player. But none of that occurred for a second. Argyle dealt with crosses superbly. Kajtic was getting his head to everything, dominating Jota physically, as Liverpool looked to cross from all different positions. Half-time came, and that was a good first half for Argyle. Muslic got the structure and out of possession shape and responsibilities absolutely spot on. Now all they needed was one moment that would reward their hard work off the ball. And the second half, that arrived. But firstly, Callum Wright found himself with a good opportunity, as this was an example of how poor Liverpool were in the second ball, heading it directly to a green shirt, as the headers were always backwards or in a poor direction, making it incredibly inviting for Argyle to come and punish them. And that punishment came in the 53rd minute, which wasn't a bad start to the half at all. A Harvey Elliott handball gave Ryan Hardie the chance to steer a coolly composed penalty in the bottom left corner, as Muslic's side got what they deserved. The better team were ahead. Now that they got something to hold on to, this would make Arne Slot's men have an even more difficult job at breaking them down. At 60 minutes, Argyle nearly punished them again. A set piece came in, which Nunes didn't even contest for, as Endo and Tsimikas both missed the ball, nearly leading to a 2-goal deficit. This sequence couldn't prove my point any better on the senior players' performances for Liverpool, because they were absolutely shocking. As the game progressed, the Reds continued to dominate the ball, but struggled, as you could guess, to find a way in. Those green shirts didn't lose focus for a second. They pushed more men forward with underlapping runs, but the wide backs of the 3 were incredible, aggressive, and pounced straight onto Liverpool's move. They knew exactly where to be and what to do, and knew their role down to the ground. That's of course very resolute and strong defending, but also brilliant coaching. When Liverpool finally beat a player 1v1 out wide, it came with a chance. The low cross was placed into the box, meeting at the feet of Luis Diaz, who was followed by the wing back, making a terrific block. Argyle's right wing back didn't give Luis Diaz any time and followed him everywhere on Sunday. The final 15 minutes were here, and this is where Slot's team actually played their best football. It felt like a huge switch, as there was a lot more urgency in their play, with the ball moving much faster. Unfortunately for Liverpool, they were up against a colossal and monstrous back line. The togetherness, passion and enjoyment you could visibly see from every block, tackle, save, clearance was brilliant, and they weren't going to let anything into the back of the net. The shots became more desperate, as did the crosses. Chiesa was trying to shoot through a crowd of players, but then Liverpool finally had some chances in the 9 minutes of stoppage time that I have no idea how the referee got. Jota let a half volley go from outside the box as Hazard makes a brilliant stop to his right. Then in the 98th minute, Hazard pulls off another huge save against Darwin Núñez. There was plenty of really impressive performances out there, but in the big moments you need your keeper to keep you in it, and he did. His overall performance through his distribution, shot stopping and claiming of crosses was top. And that was that. Plymouth sent Liverpool back home miserable and out of the cup, as they have now stunned 2 Premier League teams in their FA Cup journey. I thought the performance was terrific. The fight, the relentless energy and the running was special. The players did everything Muslic would have wanted, as he got everything spot on. From the setup to the timing of the substitutions to keep those legs fresh on the pitch was perfect. They didn't mind being pinned back at times in their own half, because they soaked up the Liverpool pressure, putting total faith in their manager, their structure and themselves. That show of courage and defensive solidity is what can keep them in the Championship this season, and the coaching and quality from their manager is something to be very encouraged by. Though Argyle are bottom of the Championship, they are just 2 wins away from escaping the relegation zone. One good run could steer them away from the relegation zone and give them the belief that they can be a well-established Championship team. Thank you for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to smash a like and subscribe to the channel. How far do you think Argyle can go in the FA Cup? And what did you think of their performance on Sunday? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.